It's Thursday, May 28th, and the time for your Barbados Today morning news update. There are hints of the possibility of further job losses in the private sector if business activity does not pick up quickly. Chairman of the Barbados Private Sector Association, Edward Clark, said companies would need to make some serious decisions in the coming weeks if economic activity does not improve. He said while some employees are back on the job at a number of businesses which were allowed to reopen, things could take a turn for the worse if revenue remains non-existent.
What is being assessed now is what will happen if business does not pick up in the next couple of weeks, in the next few weeks. Revenue is going to drive this, the decision making, and unless businesses have revenue that they can support the organization structure and the staffing structure they have, they'll have to make decisions. Once they follow the due process, you would expect people have to make decisions for the survival of the businesses. And we are hopeful that things will pick up, and hopefully the government will expand the opening hours and expand the retail sector that can reopen, and maybe some restaurants and so on. Hopefully we can see reopening in the near future. Obviously, a lot depends on the health protocols, as we can imagine, and the continuing good outcome of the COVID management.
President of the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Tricia Tanis, disclosed that there are hints of further job losses to take place in the coming weeks and months. However, she's urging business owners to ensure they follow due process as provided for in the Employment Rights Act.
And I would take the opportunity to encourage, the members of the private sector where they are contemplating or in the process of laying off to remember to ensure that they follow due process as far as their labor representatives are concerned, and the labor office as well, because we're getting some concerns being raised that companies are progressing ahead with certain actions without due process. So I would just like to take the opportunity to remind, the private sector that they're to follow the appropriate protocols.
At least one economist has criticized government's handling of the economy during its second year in office. Professor Michael Howard told Barbados Today while the Mayor Motley-led administration had done a satisfactory job in its first year, they had dropped the ball this time around. He made the comments just days after the ruling Barbados Labour Party celebrated its second year in office.
I think that they did well, and they had a right to both of having restored the Barbadian confidence in the Barbadian dollar, the right to the IMF, which I had, which I felt was necessary and had advised in the past, and it helped to raise the level of foreign reserves. I think that was, and I think that during this morning went about it, but I sort of complimentary and US went about it, and it brings stability to the economy. I think that this was the hallmark of the first year. They had a debt restructuring which was necessary, perhaps a bit too draconian, but in terms of pensioners and individuals who suffer, I thought it was a bit rough on individuals, but that sort of reduced the level of debt. Right? So I would say in the first year, even though the levels of taxation rose and so on, I think that Barbadians were rescued from the previous years of, previous years under the DLP.
In evaluating the second year, the Professor Emeritus in Economics at the University of the West Indies Cable campus said government's performance left a lot to be desired.
No, I think in the second year, I think things went downhill. Right? The economy remained in recession. There was more draconian taxation, heavy taxation, water tax continued, heavy taxes on tourism, the decline in sanitation, poor water management, and these things sort of typified in the second year. Somehow, they lost track of the course or something. And perhaps one of the main carriers to restore economic growth, to get the economy to grow. And because the economy wasn't growing, because the taxation was very heavy, and a lot of people, especially the poor, I think suffered a loss in welfare during that second year. And I think even though, despite income tax reform, people were burdened by increased indirect taxation. So I think the second year failed. I will give them a fail because the fact that they achieved the 6% IMF surplus meant that something was achieved. But to pass an exam and still people are suffering and there's no growth.
A massive effort to improve the living conditions of a struggling single mother has seemingly hit a snag. Barbados Today understands the owner of the lot at Diamond Valley St. Philip, where the family of 5 lives, has given no permission for cleaning or renovations to take place at that property and has enlisted the services of an attorney at law on the matter. Our Kareem Smith has been following the story.
As social media sensation Jordan English commenced the Luke family home renovation, Mervyn Jones, whose uncle owns the property, revealed that rent had not been paid for the last 6 years and the unsightly lot was in fact up for sale. Unimpressed with the ongoing hype surrounding the endeavor, Jones is instead urging Barbadians to get the full story before, quote, jumping on bandwagons. But on Wednesday afternoon, English started honoring a promise to improve the family's deplorable condition. Photos and videos from his social media page captured a team of youngsters cleaning a massive amount of garbage from the house with help from Jose y Jose Liquid and Solid Waste Management. Up to press time, efforts to reach English and Jose y Jose's managing director Anderson Cherry were unsuccessful. In the meantime, Jones, who is perplexed by the developments, explained that a well-kept and fully furnished house with a new television, fridge and stove had been offered to Luke approximately 10 years ago after the death of his aunt who previously occupied the property. The Rural Development Commission had been paying rent on Luke's behalf but stopped sometime in 2014. When contacted, Minister in the Ministry of Housing and Lands Charles Griffith admitted that the family is known to the RDC. He added that an officer from the commission visited the property on Tuesday to carry out an assessment. Meanwhile, Minister of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs Cynthia Ford said she received background information on the unfolding situation and is preparing to meet with the relevant social agencies to develop a plan to assist Keturah and her family. Kareem Smith for Barbados Today.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
One of the region's public health authorities has warned that rapid testing kits are not the best way to diagnose COVID-19 cases and should only be used under certain circumstances. Speaking during a Caribbean Tourism Organization webinar in light of the pending hurricane season and the ongoing pandemic, Director of Vector Control Surveillance with the Caribbean Public Health Agency, Dr. Laura Lee Boodram said, CARPHA officially recognized the PCR test as the gold standard for diagnosis of COVID-19. However, she said that the agency had published a series of guidelines on how and when to use rapid testing kits.
Officially, CARPHA does not recommend any particular or rapid tests in general for diagnosis of COVID-19. Such tests are based on serology, and they most definitely will not give you the information you need in an acute phase of an infection. And we do repeat that the PCR test is the gold standard for diagnosis of COVID-19. Notwithstanding, however, we have had hundreds of manufacturers across the globe developing and promoting rapid tests. Most recently, because we recognize the need and that several of our member states are going ahead with the use of rapid tests as a screening mechanism, we have put out recent guidance in order for you to evaluate and make some determinations that will allow you to choose the best possible rapid test kit to use in a certain scenario.
And finally, the International Labour Organization says almost 1 in 6 young people have stopped working since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, while those who remain employed have seen their working hours cut by 23%. According to the ILO monitor, COVID-19 and the World of Work 4th edition, youth are being extremely affected by the pandemic and affecting young women more than young men.
We see that young people have been the hardest and the quickest hit on the labour market, starting already from a very bad place on labour markets. We've seen that no less than 1 in 6, slightly more than 1 in 6 young people who were in work at the beginning of the pandemic are no longer working. This is a dramatic situation. But there are 2 more things affecting young people. One is the interruption of their education and training. We have seen this has happened on a very large scale, to such an extent that 50% of young people don't know when they'll be able to complete their training. 10% think that they will never complete their training. So this is a second hit on young people. And the third, of course, is that in this always difficult entry to the labour market at the end of education, for many young people, there's nowhere to go in a lockdown economy. So the danger is, if you put these 3 things together, that we are creating a lockdown generation of young people who might face permanent or at least long-term consequences for this dramatic situation.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.